So what's been the biggest learning lessons or starting and growing a successful firm? You say marketability, and I can imagine that it might be more advantageous for like a commercial company or something to do it maybe for that marketability or sustainability factor. Do you find that it is more commercial properties or projects that you're doing rather than residential?
Yeah, it's for the residential side of shipping container homes. Typically, what we see is if people are doing it for Airbnbs. Otherwise, if someone wants to live in the container themselves as their primary home, we've done that before. It's just a very unique client. Typically, versus the commercial, we've done anything from, we've done a 50-room boutique hotel we're doing right now out of containers. We've worked with some of the larger corporations like Taco Bell and Walmart and Sonic and built buildings for them out of containers, just again as a marketability thing for them. But for us, and we're doing a project in, like I mentioned earlier, in Texas. I mean, that's 28,000 square foot of shipping containers. That includes retail and event space and restaurants and bars and all that sort of, and a hotel. And that's, if it was just built out of stick frame and stucco, it loses some of that cool factor and some of that wow factor, and people aren't talking about it like they would be, I think, when it's a container project. So yeah, from a marketability standpoint and just that simple cool factor, that goes a long way. Yeah,
it's definitely more unique and something to like go venture and see in order, because it is more unique. So that makes sense. Okay, before we sign off, just selfishly, because I run an architecture firm, the goal is development. I didn't take that class at New School, which I'm kicking myself. I don't know why. I feel like it maybe wasn't offered or I didn't know. I know that when I would go to Courtyard, I'd see that you guys had your office space basically there, which I think was genius. Like take a space there. But I'd love to just chat quickly about starting in that, like starting your architecture firm. And because you guys have come so far, you do like the project you just described. That's a huge project. And so maybe what learning lessons you had from the beginning to now, because that's been like, what, 8 years now?
Yeah, Courtyard's anniversary is 8 years, like next month. So,
wow, yeah. So what's been the biggest learning lessons or starting and growing a successful firm?
Starting and growing, overhead is going to be your biggest killer to start with. I mean, like you sort of mentioned, we had all of us working in a shipping container to start with. We had one 40-foot by 8-foot wide shipping container with 7 or 8 of us working in there at one point, because that was, part of, we had the opportunity to build our own project. So we had zero overhead on the rent side of it because we were using our own space there. But any way to minimize that is going to be key. And we really just, when you're starting your own firm, as you know, what everyone wants to know is, what have you built, right? I mean, I mentioned that earlier. I was like, don't use an architect who hasn't built a shipping container, right? Like, how do you get someone to give you that trust to do that first project? We pretty much took on any project we could, when we first started. And we did a lot of we were doing labor ourselves. I think, I remember we were like painting roof tiles, like to go up at ceiling tiles, like to help with like a tenant improvement for a restaurant building. We then, I think through putting yourself out there and connecting with as many people as possible, we were fortunate that, our first residential project was actually one of our investors who invested in Courtyard, right? Because we had created that relationship already. So we ended up building his $7 million custom home out in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, on this cliffside that was right on this perfect, pristine, private beach. And he gave us a lot of creative freedom, and we were very, very lucky. Like that was
not a bad first project.
No. And it's absolutely a phenomenal project. And, and he was a great client, right? But then we've had clients where we've just taken clients and, where it's not the ideal client like that, right? Most clients are not going to be like that, which for us, we learned the hard way that most clients are like that. And what I would say too, to that point, is some clients will try to screw you over. We had a few instances where clients just, would take the work and then just not want to pay us, or take or they would ask us if, hey, can you guys put together a concept design for us, right? And initially, you're so hungry for new projects, we would do that for people, but just do it knowing that it is possible that they could just take that concept and hand it to another company and say, now I want you to do this. So just be careful. But ultimately, it's the best thing you can do. I love it. It was able to push us into doing our own development. We're currently developing a 100 units multifamily project in San Diego. That's traditional build. It's not necessarily a container project. And then we are doing another container project that is ours as our architect developer. We're actually doing architect developer and builder for that one in Waco, Texas. And that's going to be a 28,000 square foot, a dozen retail spaces. There's an old existing warehouse we've rehabbed. We've got 21 hotel rooms. We've got a couple of different event spaces and like 4 different restaurants and bars, five, I think, which is a huge step from where we started with, taking on people's bathroom remodels.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate. We feel very fortunate that we're able to get there. But it really does take just that leap of faith. And people are going to tell you can't do it, but if it's something you really, really want to do, you just have to push forward.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because I have people ask all the time, how do you get that first client? And it's like, what you see us doing now is not what we were doing in the beginning.